We have a Coppola questions before we move on.
Okay, so Coppola questions here. What do you think the message of this film is? I know that's a tall order. What is the metaphor for the clock? Is it nuclear annihilation? Is the governor supposed to represent America? What do you guys think that this is all supposed to be about? This absolute gibberish.
Nuclear war bad.
Rape bad.
That's all I got.
I think there was a bit of a rape thing there.
Rape's bad. Nuclear war is bad. It was bad for the U.S. to launch nukes at Japan.
Yeah, and we're all doomed if we don't stop bombing each other.
Yeah,
sure.
Or being scared of ghosts, seeing ghosts in each other, and nuclear proliferation and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I hope we're not far off the mark.
I feel like we
the overall sense I get from the movie.
I feel like we did a pretty good job in the breakdown of figuring out sort of what the message is, whether it were throughout, but I don't know for sure. I don't even know if Science Sono knows. Maybe people who wrote it and the guy from Beer Fest can shed some light on.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a symptom of he's directing. From what I've learned of him, is he writes and directs a lot of his own movies. So apparently they're more, coherent. At least
I really feel like he wrote the
Japanese
story,
cinema.
and then they came in and tried to make it coherent afterwards in English. I got to assume that he wrote it in Japanese, intending it to be a movie in Japan, because that is all he had ever worked on up to this point. And then he decided, because Hollywood was calling, because he does have this reputation in Japan, and Nick Cage is obviously interested in his work, and so he had this kind of in to come over. And that's what happened with John Woo too. Was like he had built this big reputation in China, and then America started calling, and he came over and did it, and he was wildly successful. I don't think Science Sono is going to be as successful as John Woo, but I forget where I was going with that, but he had this in to come to America.
Right.
And so he hired some people to translate his Japanese story that he wrote into an American screenplay, and this is what they came up with. And maybe, I don't know how good Science Sono's English actually is. Maybe he thought that this all made sense when he read it. like, oh, they translated my movie perfectly.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Or maybe some version of it did, and then again it had to get cut down for something
maybe
watchable, and we lost a bunch of context for things.
Yeah, I have a feeling the studio stepped in after, and they were like, "Yeah, we gotta try to make this coherent because it's
dying of the light at him."
Nonsense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Or maybe having 7 studios is not a good idea especially if they all had creative input and you just had the thing butchered apart.
Yeah,
I would guess whoever had the most money invested was the one that made all the calls. Everybody else is just production companies, so employees and shit like that. I doubt all those studios were really given creative input.
It makes me wonder if the version that was shown at Sundance that came out in January is completely different from the version that came out on streaming in September. Also, maybe Saturn Films stepped in because Cage had all that heat coming off of Pig, and maybe he was like, we can't release this fucking insanity as is. We got to at least make this thing somewhat coherent.
Yeah, I could see that too.
I don't know. Yeah, for Science Sono, please do not do what Paul Schrader did and bring out a new cut of this film in 3 years.
Please.
We are never going to watch that.
Hashtag
recut. What would it be? Because Dark was the Dying of the Light director's cut. The Ghostland.
Hashtag Ghost of the
Jail
Ghostland.
Ghosts. Jail phantasms.
Ghost of the Ghostland.
We could sort of answered this, but I don't think that it was meant to be. But do you think it was supposed to be in the future? Because the girls all have modern day cell phones.
Yeah, I didn't even think that. I didn't think it was based in our world at all. I thought it was just a wholly fantastical setting. Or it's the afterlife, like you said. So nothing really has to make total sense. It makes a certain amount of sense, but it's not it's based on our reality, but it's all fantastical stuff. You know,
Yeah.
metaphors wrapped around it. I took the stance that it was just its own setting in its own world.
It's just so surreal from start to finish. And like the little town, the samurai town, is all just one street. That's all we ever see is kind of like, we sort of see like his compound, but it almost feels like it's just one of the doors
like,
that you open
exactly.
on that street.
Right off the street. That's a throwback to like those old spaghetti westerns, you know, high noon, middle of town.
Yeah, they build a set of like Main Street
Yeah.
in the town, and
it's
that's
just
it.
Main Street.
And the Bloofer Bank is on this street the whole time, so
Yeah,
we're just returning
and the
exactly
sheriff's
to the
office
scene
is
of the
right
crime.
next to it.
Now that we've talked about it all this time, I do feel like this is kind of the afterlife, and everybody's living in purgatory.
Yeah, I think so.
It explains why like
all the sins.
the explosions
come
didn't
back.
really kill him or maim him that bad or whatever.
Yeah. We clearly saw cops arrest Nick Cage during the bank robbery, but then all this insanity happens throughout the rest of the movie. We never see cops again. And
Yeah.
do the cops not fight these ghosts?
How
These
can
ghosts
they?
are there.
There goes.
Is this Nick Cage's, real life? This was him in the real world before he died.
Yeah, maybe he got shot in the prison, or not the prison break, but he got shot in the botched bank robbery.
Yeah, maybe. That would also explain why so many characters get shot and then are fine afterwards.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
I think Nick Cage is shot in that scene too, isn't he?
Yes.
I think
believe
so.
He does. Or
Like
he
the
gets
cowboy
stabbed.
shoots twice, and then we see the bullet hit Bernice, but Nick Cage might have been hit too.
I don't even remember. I didn't notice it.
And then Susie
think the-
keeps asking if she's dead.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
lives.
Would also explain how his ball was blown off and he didn't bleed out or
Yeah.
anything.
And then he was just walking around fine afterwards.
Walking around fine, yeah.
Yeah.
This is just a Japanese version of Dante's Inferno.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It always goes back to Dante's Inferno,
It always does. The greatest comedy, tragedy.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the only things that make this story make sense is if this is
Yeah.
all.
Yeah,
And-
I really do think it has to take place in the afterlife, which is why you don't see any real structure of society
Yeah.
after the opening scene. It's all this crazy nonsense that is just over the top because he's living. This is his redemption arc to then be
Yeah.
able to transcend to whatever heaven,
Yeah.
whatever his peaceful afterlife would be.
Yeah, which the title of the movie suggests, prisoners of the Ghostland. Like
Ghostland,
they're all trapped in the afterlife, which would be
Yeah.
Ghostland. And they have to sort through that before they're free or whatever, or they're stuck there forever.
Yeah.
I guess
Holding
that's why
back
they're happy
time.
to see him. I mean, I guess all those people could have been victims of his from when he was alive.
I feel like
And
some
this
of
is
them
his
were
way of, like, redeeming.
nuclear
Yeah.
victims, and then some were his victims, but they all were there because they were in this ghost purgatory.
True.
So I guess it makes sense if you look at it like that. I don't fucking know.
I don't understand why he's radioactive or what the whole
Yeah, what the fuck
he's
was
got
that?
fresh thick red blood means or any of that.
Maybe he's a fresh corpse and he's a new ghost that just
Yeah.
joined the ghost.
Like he's not one of the victims of Hiroshima or whatever. So
Or the bus crash.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we sort of answered this, but was the insinuation that Susie was supposed to be a little kid? Because she's playing with that toy and she's like very childish up until the end, and then she turns into a normal person for a minute, and
Shoots them all with a machine gun.
Maybe
then
she's
she
supposed
shoots
to be,
everybody
like-
with a machine gun. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe she's supposed to be symbolic of like innocence.
Yeah.
I guess if we think of it as America, it all makes sense. But in the context of this actually being some sort of grounded fucking reality, who the hell is the governor, and why the hell does he have so much power over these people? And then suddenly doesn't have it at all when they
Yeah.
take his
He just loses it.
$500 at the end. However much they could carry out of his house.
The only way you can look at it is from a metaphorical standpoint, but we don't really understand the metaphor, so it's kind of hard to explain it. It's like, maybe it's a microcosm of like the people in power are only in power because we say they're in power.
Yeah.
And if
Or because of the
people's-
wealth.
This
Or
the wealth, it's
yeah.
the money
But if
controlling
people just
everything.
say like, we're not going to listen to you anymore, and, society as a whole says we're not going to do that, then they're done. They don't have anything to fall back on.
Right.
So that's generally how humans have worked through most of history.
Yeah.
Like a single person can't really do anything unless he has supporters, or she, or whatever, unless they have supporters that maintain order or whatever. So it's like once that support evaporates, then they got nothing.
Maybe like now I'm thinking about it, maybe the girls are supposed to represent like nuclear arms of some sort, and he's lost control of the nuclear arms, and now the good guys have control of the nuclear arms, and now he no longer has control anymore.
Yeah, maybe.
Because once he finds out that Bernice and Susie, once he doesn't have control of Susie or Bernice, that's when shit goes off the rails for him, and he no longer has power. So
yeah.
True.
Okay, I don't know. So we spend all this time prepping the prisoners of Ghostland to fight the ghosts, but they just fuck off to the spirit world like immediately.
Yeah.
Because Nick Cage and Nick Cassavetes were friends.
Yeah, that was such a huge letdown. They went nowhere.
I mean, this goes along to why did they put all those cars together if none of the Ghostlanders ended up helping in that final battle? Why didn't any of the Ghostlanders go to the town? Because they're stuck in purgatory still, because there's still this wall of ghosts between them.
But then the ghosts are gone.
He cleared the ghost. Yeah, but then he
cleared the ghosts. The ghosts are gone. And the girl who cut her own hair, who looks like the girl from Breakfast Club, she comes into the town, but nobody else does. Nobody else helps at this final battle.
Yeah. They don't have enough budget.
Yeah, they ran out of money.
Okay. Well,
Wrap this shit up.
I guess that explains it. Aren't the Ghostlanders all insane because of the radiation and stuff? And then they act like all their troubles are over at the end, but wouldn't their bodies and minds still be turning into mush? But, if we take it from they're in purgatory, that makes sense. But from an actual movie story in a real grounded reality, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Because they were crazy that entire time.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
You can't rationalize illogic.
Yeah. I can't. There's no way to
Illogical
rationalize this as a real universe.
Yeah.
Like, as a real world.
Okay.
It's illogical.
So-
This whole thing. This makes no sense. So trying to rationalize it's
impossible.
insane.
It's impossible.
Yeah, mine was is Hero really a bad guy? Like, did he actually kill a bunch of kids and stuff? Or because we're showing that he doesn't actually kill people during the bank robbery. It was just Psycho that did it. But
he did.
He acts himself like he has all these victims that he killed. So I wasn't sure if we were. And he's like, there's the weird like rapey vibes we get when he's telling Bernice to take it off, and he pours water, and like the governor has the chastity suit on him that'll blow him up if he tries to be violent or do anything sexual, which he clearly needs because he tried to do both of those things.
Yeah.
So
I think he's a violent guy, but I don't think he was a murderer. I don't think he was that bad of a guy.
I think he feels responsible for those deaths because he didn't stop Psycho.
Yeah.
And so he
but then they also
claims
call
them
him a
as victims of
badass
his
and say he's like super good at fighting and stuff, but
that's because he broke
not.
out of prison a bunch, right?
Yeah.
So he didn't necessarily have to kill people in order to be known as a badass, because he was able to escape captivity several times, which could also go back to the purgatory thing somehow. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Finally was killed trying to escape. I don't know.
Or maybe he only exists as a hero because this whole thing is his story. Like, it's all his.
Right.
It's his afterlife.
This is his final synapses firing.
Right. Like, he got shot in a bank robbery.
He might have died in that bank robbery, yeah. Maybe that's what this is all for, because that's how it starts, is it starts in the bank with the little kid, and then maybe Psycho kills him.
Sure, yeah.
And this is all some crazy nut job dream of his own imagining.
Yeah.
More questions than answers. Put that on the fucking title, like underneath Prisoners of the Ghostland. More questions. You will be left with your brain more mush than Ratman and his Rat Clan.